As part of the disaster declaration, the president approved a request to make direct assistance available to eligible families that experienced severe property damage in 5 counties, including Kennebec and Somerset. Many Mainers will be relying on the program to assist with repairing the damage, including a community in Anson. Most of the homeowners who live on Madison Street say they did not have flood insurance due to its high cost. A FEMA representative says the assistance program is there to aid with the recovery process.
The amount of funding that we can provide for someone's home is up to $42,500. Then the amount of funding that we can provide for those other needs, the cars and the clothes and stuff, is also up to $42,500. And then if there's needs to be rental assistance, so someone is displaced and we need to help them lease an apartment, that cap is based off of the fair market rent in that jurisdiction.
It's going to be a while before we can get that family life, that family orientation of this valley, and we all talk and say hi and everything. That's gone right now.
FEMA, in collaboration with MEMA and state agencies, will set up disaster recovery centers in affected areas, providing various services, including application support. Specific locations will be announced at a later date.